Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, the Fellow KGB. You can follow me on Twitter at the Fellow KGB. And today we're going to be going over the noon games for Sunday, Week 4. We're going to kind of just be looking at the start-sit charts. We're going to look at some practice reports, and we're just going to kind of talk about how we feel about these guys in our starting lineup. So we're going to jump right into it. I think I posted in the description. They're going to see a link for the start-sit charts. So you can follow those if you want to take a look. But yeah, we're going to start with the Colts at the Chicago Bears. It's going to be a pretty good game. I'm excited for this one. But one thing that I've been trying to do with these new start-sit charts is I'm going to start posting the fantasy points allowed to position. So we're going to see that the Colts, they allow only 8.7 points to the quarterback position with 4-point passing touchdowns. And the Bears allow 11.8. So these have technically been the two best defenses against quarterbacks to start the year. So I'm kind of low on both guys. These guys are just quarterback twos for Superflex. We're not really going to be that interested in these guys. But I think we're going to be very interested in the running backs here. I think you're starting Jonathan Taylor as your running back 2. You're going to start David Montgomery. Now that Tariq Cohen is out of the picture, we could see David Montgomery get a little bit more work in the passing game. So I'm super interested in both the running backs here. We do see that the Colts are one of the best teams against the running backs in a PPR format. They allow the 30th amount of points with 17.9. So that's a pretty low number. The Bears are kind of middle of the road here. They allow 25.7 fantasy points PPR to the running backs. So maybe we see Jonathan Taylor outplay David Montgomery a little bit. I also think the Colts offensive line's a little bit better than the Bears. So we'll see the Colts really try to establish the run and see what they can do with Jonathan Taylor, maybe get Nyheim Hines in there in PPR leagues. Typically, like when the Colts are going to be favored to win the game by like a good amount of points, I don't think they're going to be that interested in playing Nyheim Hines. But in the tougher, close situation games, I think Nyheim Hines becomes a little bit more valuable. He's going to get more snaps, and he's going to play he's just going to get on the field a little bit more as the game gets tighter and they have to throw the ball. And then I guess the only guy I really feel comfortable starting besides the running backs is going to be T.Y. Hilton. He's just on the field a lot. We see that the Colts have been the 29th toughest against receivers. The Bears have been the 21st toughest against receivers. So it's kind of it's really the passing game's kind of neutral here. But T.Y. Hilton's going to be on the field a lot. We did see the rookie Michael Pittman Jr. I think he's on IR for probably 3 to 6 weeks. He had the leg compartmentalization injury. He had surgery. So you're going to see Zach Pascal kind of step into the starting lineup and be probably the most snapped receiver this week. I probably could put Mo Alley Cox here in the tight end 1 spot. I'm open to him being a streamer, especially if you're a guy that had like Jonnu Smith, relying on those touchdowns and all the production there in Tennessee. We're not starting Jack Doyle. I'm going to monitor Jordan Wilkins, but the Colts are pretty simple. You're starting Jonathan Taylor. You can probably put T.Y. Hilton in as a low-end wide receiver 3 flex. And then Nyheim Hines, he's really only valuable in PPR leagues as a low-end RB2 flex. And then on the Bears side, we're going to see Nick Foles hopefully inject some confidence into the Bears passing game. You're starting Allen Robinson. He had a really great game last weekend, and I think you can stream Jimmy Graham right now. He had 10 targets last week, and I think he caught 6 for 60 and 2 touchdowns. So Jimmy Graham is maybe it was just the 1 touchdown, but Jimmy Graham's playing really well right now, and he shouldn't be hanging around your waiver wire, especially, tight ends are kind of hard to come by, and anyone that's catching that many fantasy points we're interested in. So Jimmy Graham, Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, these guys can all be in our lineups. I don't know if I trust Anthony Miller just yet. He's had 2 really good games out of 3. So, but again, this is a tough matchup against a good Colts defense. I'm probably willing to wait for Anthony Miller. Darnell Mooney's getting more snaps than him for some reason. And then Cordero Patterson with Tariq Cohen out of the picture. I'm interested to see if they give Cordero a little bit more run. And he needs more targets. Cordero's a pretty good ball player when you get him in open space. So I'm watching for this. But I think that's a pretty simple evaluation for the Colts and the Bears. This game, I'm really excited for the Browns and the Cowboys. So we're just going to take a peek down here at the fantasy points allowed. So the Browns are allowing 20.5 4-point passing touchdown points to the opposing quarterback, and the Cowboys are allowing 24.6, which is the third. Technically, it's the third most points. So this is going to probably be a really good passing game for the Browns and the Cowboys. We see both teams here. So I highlight the positive matchups as green, and they're going to low light the negative game scripts as red. So teams aren't really getting a lot of running back points against these guys, but it's all about the receivers. The Browns are allowing the sixth most fantasy points to receiver, Cowboys the second. And then the tight ends too. The Browns are allowing the third most tight end points, and the Cowboys the 10th most. So these teams are probably going to be passing the ball a lot this weekend. So on the Dallas side of things, this game's in Dallas too, by the way. So you're starting Dak Prescott, you're starting Ezekiel Elliott, we're starting Amari Cooper. I think we're still like I was starting Michael Gallup either way, but now that he's had his breakout game, Michael Gallup is locked into our lineups as the number 3 receiver. We've seen what he can do at the ceiling, and I'm hoping that they can kind of air it out a little bit more and get some more downfield shots with Michael Gallup. CeeDee Lamb, we can continue to flex him in PPR leagues. I think he's a good wide receiver 3 play. He's got a high floor. He's somewhere in that 5 to 6 reception range every week. And then Dalton Schultz, as I noted down here, the Browns they're allowing the third most fantasy points to tight end at 19.3. So I don't know if Dalton Schultz is going to be expected to get 19.3. But I really like the trend here that the Browns are allowing quite a bit of points. So I think Dalton Schultz could be streamed if you're a guy that's got Jonnu Smith or any other injuries to the tight end position. He probably should be added by now. I don't know if he's hanging around your waiver wire. Just go ahead and check that out. But Dalton Schultz is an interesting streamer for me. We're going to monitor Tony Pollard, Cedric Wilson, who had the 2 touchdowns last weekend, and then Noah Brown from our benches. We're not really concerned with those guys. But the away team, the Browns, Baker Mayfield hasn't really been doing much for us as a quarterback 2 in Superflex. He really shouldn't be owned in one quarterback leagues. This is not a passing team. I've been kind of talking about this for a while with the Browns. They're going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. But as you see here, the Cowboys have only allowed 20.5 fantasy points per game to the running backs, which makes me really question what's going to go on here. We know the Browns want to run the ball. They're not going to they're not going to flow away from their strengths of their team. So I would imagine that the Browns are going to get over that 20.5 running back points this weekend. But we're still starting Nick Chubb as a running back 1. We're starting Kareem Hunt as an RB2. But I did want to monitor the practice reports real quick because I did see Kareem Hunt was questionable. So we got Kareem Hunt here missing practice 2 straight days with a groin injury. So this is not good. Typically, we want at least 1 or 2 days of limited practices in for our players. So tomorrow's a really big day for Kareem Hunt. We'll have to check back with him. But the Browns are really dinged up. They got a lot of guys questionable. Odell Beckham's even questionable with a back injury. Joe Bitonio, tight end here. Jack Conklin, he got a full practice in, so it looks like he's going to be fine. But then you got a couple other guys. Jarvis Landry looks like he's logging full practices. And looks like their defense is kind of getting healthier too. So just the Kareem Hunt injury made me kind of look into this a little bit more. But if Hunt can't go, maybe we see more of Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham in the passing game. I think Kareem Hunt, tomorrow's a big day for Kareem Hunt. If he can get in the limited, then we'll kind of have to monitor his game time decision status. But if he plays, I'm willing to put him out there as a low-end RB2 in PPR leagues. And then you got these receivers, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. We don't really trust these guys, but like I said, looking at these stats here, the Cowboys have allowed the second most fantasy points to the receiver position at 49 points per game. So these 2 guys, Beckham and Jarvis Landry, they are pretty much the only weapons that get any targets consistently in the passing game. So I would think Odell Beckham has a good chance of coming down with the long bomb for a touchdown, and then we'll see if Jarvis Landry he's kind of been stuck at like the 3 or 4 reception range, so he would have to, I don't know, maybe he gets up to 5 or 6 receptions this week. We'll see. I think the Browns are going to have trouble stopping the Cowboys' passing attack, so we should see Baker Mayfield probably attempt more passes than we've seen so far. So, and then you got I'm not interested in any of these defenses in this one. Like I've seen, or like I've showed the stats here too. These are really good passing numbers for opposing players. And then Austin Hooper, I don't even know do we need to carry Austin Hooper on our teams in 1 tight end leagues? I'm not really sure. Then just some backups to monitor here. Kadero Hodge, Harrison Bryant. But yeah, this one's going to probably be, I'm leaning the Cowboys. I just don't see the Browns. We just saw how dinged up their team is with the defense. It looks like there's guys limited practicing, but again, the Cowboys offense is probably no joke. I don't think the Browns can keep up with them. So start your Cowboys, and then let's see if Odell and Jarvis Landry can kind of get back on our good graces. Now we got the Jaguars and the Bengals. DJ Chark with a question mark here. Let's take a look and see the reports for the Jaguars. So DJ Chark, he is still questionable with a chest injury. It looks like he's logged 2 practices, 2 limited practices so far this weekend. I'm just looking around here. Tyler Eifert, it looks like he's fine. He just had a non-injury designation there. Any other major offensive pieces? So the offense looks good to go. So we're starting Gardner Minshew as a quarterback 2 in Superflex. I just want to share with you guys here. The Jaguars are allowing they're allowing 21.9 fantasy points to the quarterback. That's the 6th most. And then the Bengals are allowing just 15.5 points, which is the 26th most. So the Bengals somehow have been playing pretty good against opposing quarterbacks. I don't know if that's going to change for me this weekend. I think Gardner Minshew has low-end quarterback 1 numbers, but he kind of let us down last week. And if DJ Chark's not playing, then I won't play Gardner Minshew as a quarterback 1. So that's why I have him as a quarterback 2. Looking at these defensive numbers, though, the Jaguars are allowing 27.3 fantasy points to the running backs, and the Bengals are allowing 29.8, which is the 7th most in the league. So that, to me, is going to make James Robinson a really solid RB2. We saw what he could do last weekend on Thursday Night Football, so make sure James Robinson is in your lineup this weekend. You don't want to miss out on that. Again, we're going to monitor DJ Chark's status. He's probably going to be a game-time decision with that chest injury. If he goes, again, I'm more excited to play Gardner Minshew. If he's out, then that makes Keelan Cole, Laviska Shenault. These guys are more interesting wide receiver 3 flex options. The Jaguars and the Bengals, though, they are actually been pretty good against allowing fantasy points to the receiver position. So I'm not really super excited to get Keelan Cole, Laviska Shenault in my lineups this weekend. I would say probably the only Jaguar I want to make sure is in my lineup is James Robinson. And then I'm probably just going to monitor the rest of the team. Hopefully DJ Chark can go. On the Bengals side of things, I think Joe Burrow he's basically a quarterback 1 at this point. If you had the luxury of taking him in your quarterback 2 Superflex leagues, and he's a really solid quarterback 2 right now. So good job on that one. Joe Mixon, man, we are just not enjoying the Joe Mixon show right now. But again, the Jaguars are allowing 27.3 PPR points to the running back position through 3 games, which is the 12th most. So Mixon, you drafted him with a 1st or 2nd round pick. He's going to continue to be in our lineups as an RB2. Tyler Boyd, I almost wanted to put Tyler Boyd as a wide receiver 1 right here. Again, we noted that the Jaguars are pretty stingy against receivers. But if we go ahead and look here, I'm going to pull up another link here on the fantasyfellowship.com, which is my week 3 opportunity report. Let's just take a look and see how much usage our boy Tyler Boyd was getting. So last weekend we saw Tyler Boyd with 13 targets, 10 receptions, 125 yards. This is on 44 Joe Burrow attempts. So basically 1 out of every 4 Joe Burrow passes is going to Tyler Boyd at this point, which is a massive target share. And it wouldn't really surprise me if Tyler Boyd continues to play at a tight or wide receiver 1 level the rest of the way. I've been talking about this for a while. This is why I love Tyler Boyd coming into the draft season so much, was because Joe Burrow was really comfortable throwing to the slot at LSU. I mean, that's where Justin Jefferson played. We just saw Justin Jefferson pop off last week. So Tyler Boyd is basically the Justin Jefferson of that LSU offense for Joe Burrow. So I really love Tyler Boyd. He's pretty much unbenchable at this point. You have to start him every week going forward. The 2 flex options that I'm interested in here are T. Higgins and kind of AJ Green. Let's take a look at what these guys did last weekend. But T. Higgins actually ran the most snaps on the Bengals roster last week for receivers. 9 targets, 5 catches, 40 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty solid for a rookie's 3rd game. And then you got AJ Green here, 6 targets, 5 catches, 36 yards, just 8.6 PPR points. I'm almost okay with benching AJ Green until he shows us, hey, this is worth starting. But he's been a massive disappointment so far. And I think if you had to give me 1 receiver to play, I think I'm taking T. Higgins, because they're showing that they want to get him more involved in the passing offense. They're showing that, hey, we're starting him. He's getting more snaps, and all the indications are pointing to T. Higgins continuing to ramp up more and more touches and snaps. So I love Higgins here. We're not interested in either of these defenses. I'm going to monitor Drew Sample. He only had the 1 catch on the 1 target last weekend. Maybe he gets back involved in a little bit. And then Giovanni Bernard, 3rd down back. And then hopefully Auden Tate. I'm kind of watching Auden Tate. It looked like he had 25 snaps, 35% share last weekend. He had 4 targets. John Ross was a healthy scratch, so hopefully Auden Tate continues to get more snaps. And it wouldn't surprise me if he starts eating into AJ Green's workload if AJ Green can't produce. So I'm keeping an eye on that. This is going to be a really fun game. I mean, the Jaguars and the Bengals, it's not good TV, but I'm probably going to be keeping an eye on it. And we'll see Minshew versus Burrow. Hopefully DJ Chark plays. I think that would make this game a much better game. But there should be a lot of fantasy points in this one, so make sure you guys get your players in. Now, the Saints and the Detroit Lions, this one's actually really fun. You see a lot of players here that I have listed into the starting group. Let's talk about the fantasy points allowed. The Saints are allowing the sixth most fantasy points to quarterbacks at 21.9 points, and the Lions are actually pretty stingy against quarterbacks. They have allowed only 15.5 points. So this favors Matthew Stafford. I don't really like Drew Brees. So I have Drew Brees listed as a quarterback one. That's only because I think Mike Thomas is going to play. If Michael Thomas is out again, I'm going to downgrade Drew Brees to a quarterback 2 in Superflex. But feel free to start both Drew Brees and Matthew Stafford in this one. I guess the running backs and PPR points here, the Saints are allowing just 23 fantasy points, but the Lions are up here allowing 28.1 PPR points to the running back. So that's the 10th most. And then for the receivers, that's the Lions that you want to target. They're allowing 40.2 PPR points to receivers. That's 12th most. But the part that the Saints have been really falling apart with on defense is against the tight end. They have allowed the most fantasy points to tight end through 3 games at 27.3 points per game. The Lions, in contrast, the Lions are just allowing 10 points. So this, to me, spells a huge TJ Hawkinson opportunity. So if you have TJ Hawkinson, make sure you get him in your starting lineup, please, because he's set up for a really good game. I guess we'll talk about the Lions already. Matthew Stafford, he's your quarterback 1, quarterback 2 Superflex. Kenny Golladay came through unscathed last weekend with his hamstring injury, so he's locked in as your wide receiver 2. TJ Hawkinson, lock him in as your tight end 1. And then I think Marvin Jones can be used. The Saints are pretty stingy against receivers. So if you're in a pinch or if you have some of those Steelers or the Titans players, go ahead and play Marvin Jones as your wide receiver 3 flex. I don't think I can trust any of the other players that I have listed here. I don't want to touch any of the running backs. Adrian Peterson's getting the most snaps and touches out of these guys, so DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson are pretty much useless for fantasy until we see otherwise. Danny Amendola, Quintez Cephas, these guys are all 3rd and 4th fiddles in the passing offense. So I feel pretty confident that these are the guys that you want. On the Saints side of things, Alvin Kamara, holy crap, just enjoy the Alvin Kamara season that you're going to have this year. We're hoping Michael Thomas is back. Let's take a look at the Saints practice reports right now. So Michael Thomas, I know he was limited yesterday. It looks like he was limited again today. So maybe he gets in a full practice tomorrow. If he's limited again, I like his chances to get on the field this weekend. The Saints are 1-2. They're on a 2-game losing streak, so they really gotta make sure they win this one against an inferior opponent in the Detroit Lions. So I'm assuming Thomas plays. I'm still gonna. Traquan Smith has looked pretty good so far this year. So if Thomas is gonna play, basically Traquan Smith and Emmanuel Sanders are both wide receiver 3 flexes. We do have to monitor Jared Cook's status. Looks like he did not practice both days this weekend with a groin. I'm assuming he's out. So if Jared Cook's out, we're going to be interested in the rookie tight end out of Dayton, Adam Troutman. This is a really good dynasty player. So if you are new to Adam Troutman, check him out on YouTube highlights or something and just watch what he can do. He's a really good young tight end, and he's probably going to be the future tight end 1 in New Orleans. Latavius Murray, Deontay Harris, Josh Hill, we're not really interested in there. I could have put Taysom Hill down here, but I didn't feel like it. But yeah, this one's going to be fun. Like I said, the Saints are allowing quite a bit of quarterback points, and they're allowing a lot of tight end points. So I'm into Stafford, Golladay, TJ Hawkinson, and we'll see if the Lions can. The Lions are already pretty bad against the running backs and the receivers. So if Thomas and Kamara are doing their thing, I think the Saints are going to be handling this game pretty easily. So now we are looking at the Seattle Seahawks and the Miami Dolphins. This one's probably the most fun game of the noon slate, the Seahawks and the Miami Dolphins. Let's take a look at what the defenses are allowing. The Seattle Seahawks are allowing 28.7 points to the quarterback. That's the 2nd most in the league. And then the Dolphins are allowing 23.1, which is the 4th most. So these two teams, they cannot really stop the other team's quarterbacks. There's going to be a lot of good passing stats in this one. Then I'm going to skip here to the wide receiver position because the Seattle Seahawks are allowing 73.2 PPR points to the wide receivers, which is it's just ridiculous. Let me show you who the next closest team is in terms of this statistic. So I'm just on fftoday.com. I click fantasy points allowed to receivers, and then I'm going to click on the PPR here. But you're going to see Seattle Seahawks, they are allowing the most fantasy points to the receiver position with 73.2. The next closest is the Dallas Cowboys at 49. So something is seriously wrong with the Seattle secondary here. They just cannot defend wide receivers right now. You look at the total yards that they have allowed. The Seattle Seahawks have allowed 1,136 yards to the receivers alone this year. That's not even accounting for running backs and tight ends. The next closest team is the Falcons with 736 yards. So they've allowed 400 more yards than the next closest team. And then in terms of receptions, this is even crazier. They've allowed 76 catches through 3 games to the other opponent receivers, and the next closest are the Broncos. So Seattle is clear and away the worst at defending receivers at the moment. So this is going to make me really want to get Devontae Parker. I'm even interested in Preston Williams right now. Mike Gesicki. These guys are all going to probably have a really good game. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick could end up being quarterback one here, as we did see the Seahawks are allowing the second most points per game to the quarterback position. So this is all pointing up really, really well for Gaskin. He's a good weapon in the passing game. The Seahawks are kind of better against the run. But again, Gaskins is such a good PPR value that I'm basically really excited for all the Dolphins here. That's Fitzpatrick. That's Myles Gaskin as an RB2. Devontae Parker, he could be a wide receiver 1 this week. You're starting Mike Gesicki. And then I think I'm really hoping if Preston Williams doesn't have a good game this weekend, I think it's going to be safe to say we can drop him. Like, he needs to blow up this game. As we just looked at all those Seattle Seahawks stats, if Preston can't get it together this weekend, I don't know when he will. So guys to monitor that might have another good game would be the receivers here: Isaiah Ford, Jakeem Grant. We're not interested in Jordan Howard or Matt Breida right now, but again, I'm going to keep an eye on if Preston Williams can't pop off. Maybe it's Isaiah Ford, maybe it's Jakeem Grant. We'll see what happens there. On the Seahawks side of things, Russell Wilson, he's the MVP right now. He's your quarterback 1. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. These guys are both in your lineups. Let's take a look, though, quick, because before we get to Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson, I want to take a look at the practice reports. Look at this list for the Seattle Seahawks. They are really dinged up. I don't know how many players this is, but it's probably like 25 players. This is nuts. I haven't seen an injury list this big in a long time. So we see Chris Carson here. They didn't release their Thursday reports yet, but yesterday he did practice with a limited capacity. So he's probably doing another limited capacity today. And the thing that caught my eye was Carlos Hyde was also limited. So those of you who were picking up Carlos Hyde to replace Chris Carson, I'm going to say not so fast. We have to monitor Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde's practice reports tomorrow and see where they go for the weekend. They're probably going to be both game time decisions. And then with that said, I mean, if both guys are going to play, I really don't know if I trust either one of them. It's all going to be about the receiving game and the passing game, I think. So if you drafted Chris Carson, you're probably still going to start him as your RB2. I'm assuming he's going to give it a go, though. I know they have a bye I think they have a bye. They play Minnesota next weekend, and then they have a bye. So I don't know if there's any advantage to Carson holding out for 1 or 2 weeks. But again, we're going to have to monitor this situation for the running backs there. And then because I am interested so much in the passing game for the Seahawks, the Miami Dolphins have been pretty good against tight end. They've only allowed 8.1 fantasy points per game to the tight end. But I'm interested in Greg Olsen. I think he could be an 8 to 10 point guy in PPR leagues. So again, if you're a guy with like Jonnu Smith or maybe even Evan Ingram and you just want to kind of make a pivot, I'm open to Greg Olsen off the waiver wire. But again, it's all about Wilson, Lockett, Metcalf. That's the engine of this whole team right now. And then we're going to monitor the running back situation. But that's going to be a really fun game. I'm pretty excited to watch that game. There should be a lot of fantasy points in that one. Let's take a look at the Chargers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I should probably write Justin Herbert's name correctly. He's not just Herbert. He is Justin Herbert. And he's going to be a quarterback 2 for us. In Superflex leagues, I don't know if anyone's going to be throwing him out there against Tampa Bay's defense, but even in Superflex leagues, I don't think I'm starting. I'm probably going to move Justin Herbert down here because Tampa Bay's defense is really good. As you see here, the fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position, Tampa Bay is allowing only 12.2 quarterback points per game, which is outstanding. That's the 30th most in the league. So the Chargers are allowing 18.8 for contrast. So that's almost 6 points more. I don't see myself trusting a rookie quarterback on the road against a really good Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. He's probably going to be fine with Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry. I think these guys can all keep him afloat. Austin Eckler's your RB2 in PPR leagues. Keenan Allen's actually more of a wide receiver 1 right now. And then Hunter Henry's got a good enough floor where I tend to trust him. But, I mean, for the most part, I don't trust Mike Williams. I don't trust Josh Kelly. And then these younger receivers here we really can't trust. But I guess if we look at the matchups here, it looks like Tampa Bay is allowing more of their fantasy points to the running back spot. So they've allowed the 11th most through 3 games. That's 28 points per game there. But again, Tampa Bay is pretty good in the secondary, pretty good against tight ends. So I really think we could see Justin Herbert, sacked and pressured a lot. Tampa Bay is going to try to get him down and frustrate him. So maybe it's a slower day for guys like Keenan Allen or Hunter Henry, and maybe it's a lot of Austin Eckler today or on Sunday. And then on the Tampa Bay side, I think Tom Brady can be your quarterback too. In Superflex leagues, you're starting Mike Evans. I got Rob Gronkowski in here with a question mark. He's been playing the first 2 games. He did not play very great, but last weekend he caught, I think it was 6 of his 7 targets. I think he had like 40-some yards, and he almost caught a touchdown. If we go down here and look at the Bucs opportunity report, keep scrolling. So we saw Rob Gronkowski last weekend, 93% of the snaps, which is a season high. 7 targets, 6 catches, and 48 yards. And then I said that Tom Brady overthrew him on a wide open touchdown. So Gronk could have had 7 receptions on 7 targets and probably like 66 yards or something like that. It would have been like a 20 or 30-yard catch. So if Gronkowski is going to continue to see 90% some snaps and 6 or 7 targets and receptions, I think he's going to be startable this weekend as your tight end 1. So check out if someone dropped him over the last week or 2, I think he's worth an add on your bench. I think he's worth a start, like a spot start this weekend with some of the injuries and the postponements that we've seen going on. So I love Rob Gronkowski this weekend. Again, Chris Godwin's going to be out. Let me take a look at the practice reports for Tampa Bay. I believe they've already declared him out. He's doubtful, so he did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, but he's got the hamstring injury. He had the MRI on Monday, or maybe it was Tuesday. But it sounds like he's definitely out this weekend. Tampa Bay does play on Thursday Night Football next weekend, so I think that's what they're trying to set him up for. They're going to be playing against Chicago Bears. And then another wide receiver here, Scotty Miller. He's been not practicing for 2 straight days with a hip injury. And then Leonard Fournette, who had an ankle injury last Sunday, he hasn't practiced all week either. So this is really making me like Ronald Jones here. I might even move Ronald Jones up to a running back 2 flex. Because I don't think Leonard Fournette's going to play. I don't think Chris Godwin's going to play. So then that leaves Scotty Miller hasn't practiced for 2 straight games or 2 straight days either. So I'm probably going to move him down. I might even move a guy like O.J. Howard up. I might even move a guy like Justin Watson up. So I'm going to have to monitor this and see if Scotty Miller can go. But the guys that I feel the most comfortable with on Tampa Bay is Tom Brady as a quarterback 2. Mike Evans, wide receiver 1. He's going to be the leading target man this week. I like Rob Gronkowski, and I like Ronald Jones. And then we're going to see if O.J. Howard or maybe Justin Watson pick up the slack from Chris Godwin's targets. But Tampa Bay should be able to control this one. I'm actually expecting a good day for Ronald Jones on the ground. The Chargers are pretty good, though, against the running backs. They're only allowing 19 points per game in PPR, and that's where Tampa Bay struggles. They're allowing about 28 fantasy points per game to the running backs. So we'll see what happens there. It looks like we got a couple more games here. The Ravens and the Washington football team. Lamar Jackson was really frustrating to watch on Monday night, but you're not benching Lamar Jackson. He's your quarterback 1. I'm getting nervous about Mark Ingram as an RB2. I really don't know if I can trust him as an RB2. I actually might move him down here to the flex spot. And same thing with Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews. These guys were high draft picks, and they've kind of been Mark Andrews blew up week 1. But Marquise Brown still hasn't scored a touchdown yet. He's been pretty disappointing on a whole. So I think Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, we give them one more shot this weekend. If they can't do it against Washington, then we'll start to have our questions. But I think we gotta assume that the Ravens are going to be able to take advantage of this Washington football team and get that sour taste out of their mouth from the Kansas City game. So I'm starting Ingram, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, and I think I'm starting J.K. Dobbins. The thing that I really liked about J.K. Dobbins, let's see if we can get this here all the way back to Baltimore. So in that game against the Chiefs, they were losing a lot, so they weren't really able to establish the run that they wanted. But J.K. Dobbins led the team in snaps with 24, Ingram 18, Gus Edwards 13. But they primarily use J.K. Dobbins as a receiver, so I'm going to be interested to see if that continues to grow. And then guys that I'm just monitoring from the bench is Devin Duvernay, Miles Boykin, Willie Snead. And I guess I'm monitoring Devin Duvernay twice because that punt return must have been really nice when I was writing these. And then I guess on the Washington side, we're on Dwayne Haskins' watch. He's been kind of called out by the head coach Ron Rivera. We might be seeing Kyle Allen as soon as this week or next week, so he's kind of on my radar right now for Superflex leagues. But really, the only pieces of this offense is that we can trust is Terry McLaurin. Logan Thomas is going to get the targets, and Antonio Gibson hopefully gets enough touches with the running game. And he doesn't really get used much as a receiver, but again, the Washington football team is going to have to throw the ball to keep up with the Ravens. So you're going to probably see McLaurin get his targets. You're going to see Logan Thomas get his targets. And we'll see if Antonio Gibson can get near the red zone and get the goal line touchdown. So we got a comment in here. Let me read this thing here. So we got Mark Andrews and Noah Fant. I can start both tight ends if I only start one receiver. So you got Odell Beckham, Michael Gallup, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones. So is it worth starting? Do you want to get Noah Fant out there tonight? So the practice reports have been interesting because I know DJ Chark here. Let me just pull up those. I know DJ Chark is still questionable. It looks like he has logged 2 limited practices this weekend. So I'm thinking he's trending towards playing. So I think I really want to get DJ Chark in the lineup against the Bengals. And then I know Marvin Jones is healthy. I know Michael Gallup is healthy. But then Odell Beckham kind of can't. He popped on the injury report today too with a back injury. So I think for the most part, how I would rank them is I think I like Michael Gallup the best. I feel the safest about him going up against the Cleveland Browns. So I would make sure he's in your lineup. And then I think Mark Andrews or Noah Fant. So Mark Andrews is going to be more boom bust. I think Noah Fant's going to actually be really good with Brett Ripien tonight. He's probably the one Bronco that I feel the safest about. It looked like he had a good connection with him in the last drive against Tampa Bay. So I think I'm starting Noah Fant. And then what I would do is I would lock Noah Fant into the tight end spot. And then I think I would we're going to monitor the practice reports and see what's going on the rest of the week. Because I think I would like to get DJ Chark and maybe Michael Gallup in the lineup. But I think that's what I'm going to say to do is get Noah Fant in the lineup tonight. And then you can make this decision a little bit later when we get more practice reports. So good luck with that. I'm going to be thinking about this tonight. So I hope Noah Fant does this well. And if the Broncos are going to score a touchdown, we'll see what they can do. But I'm actually optimistic that Brett Ripien can do some good things. So good luck with your tight ends tonight and this weekend. But back to the start-sit charts. I really don't want to talk much about the Washington football team. But again, to recap, you're starting Terry McLaurin. You're going to start Logan Thomas as your tight end 1. I think just because he's getting the volume, and eventually that's going to turn into something pretty good. And then I'm questionable on Antonio Gibson as my flex. But then again, we're not really starting anybody else here. In terms of fantasy points allowed, the Ravens are allowing the 8th most points to quarterback. The Washington football team's allowing the 12th most. They're pretty solid against the running backs and the receivers. And then I would say the tight end groups, this is why we want to target the players here. So we were just kind of talking about Mark Andrews. And yeah, I'm open to even flexing Mark Andrews this weekend because the Washington football team, they're allowing the 6th most PPR points to tight end at 17.4 per game. And then the Ravens are even worse than that. They're allowing 18.8 points per game. So both teams, they're susceptible against the pass, and the tight ends are the ones that are doing the gashing. So monitor those players and the tight ends there. So I think we got maybe two more games to talk about here. We're looking at the Arizona Cardinals and the Carolina Panthers. Let's take a look at the practice reports for Arizona, because I noticed that DeAndre Hopkins has not practiced all week. He is questionable with an ankle injury. We'll see tomorrow if he can get a limited practice in. Because it's DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not really concerned about him going into Sunday with not practicing. If he can play, I'm still going to play him. But definitely, you would like to see him get something limited in this week. That'll be tomorrow. So we're going to monitor that. Looks like the rest of the offense is fine. Looks like Larry Fitzgerald came back. Christian Kirk is practicing limited with the groin injury. But still, you're going to start Kyler Murray as your quarterback one. Every running back that has gone against the Carolina Panthers has done really well. So you're starting Kenyon Drake as your RB2, and we're going to hope for that boom game this weekend. But then, besides DeAndre Hopkins, we really can't trust anybody else here. I'm curious to keep watching Chase Edmonds. I want to see Christian Kirk do something before I trust him. Same with Andy Isabella, Keyshawn Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. It's really simple for the Cardinals. Just roll with these guys here. On the Panthers side of things, Teddy Bridgewater can be a quarterback too in Superflex leagues. I wanted to actually put Mike Davis as a running back one. I'm actually pretty excited about what he can do. You're starting DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, whether that's a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3. I think DJ Moore could be slotted into a wide receiver 1, 2, and Robbie Anderson into the 2, 3. And then Curtis Samuel, he's a wide receiver 3 flex play. He's going to probably get 4 or 5 carries in this one, and then he's always going to get 4 to 5 targets. So he's kind of the third fiddle here, but all it takes is one play. And then let's take a look here at the points allowed stats. So both teams are pretty stingy against the quarterback, but they both allow quite a bit of points to the running back. So the Panthers are allowing the second most at 43.5. I think the Cardinals are a little bit better, but they're allowing 27.2, which is the 13th most. So that's the easiest way to attack these defenses, is to try to get the running backs some catches and just try to run it up the middle of the field. So this game, I don't know, it could go either way. Kyler Murray turned the ball over last weekend with the 3 interceptions and allowed the Detroit Lions to win. So I'm open to Carolina maybe just keeping it really simple and steady with Teddy Bridgewater, dumping it off to Mike Davis, finding DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, and a little splash plays to Curtis Samuel. So I think this game can go either way, and it really depends on if DeAndre Hopkins can go. So really monitor those practice reports tomorrow and the game time decision leading into the weekend. And then our final game that we are reviewing tonight will be the Vikings and the Houston Texans. So this game was almost once in jeopardy this weekend because of the Titans having played the Minnesota Vikings last, but it looks like they have opened their facilities. I think this game's going to go. So the Vikings and the Houston Texans, man, both teams are 0-3. Let's take a look at the fantasy points allowed here. The Vikings are allowing 17.7 points to the quarterback per game, and the Texans are allowing 18.4. So like they're both fairly average against the quarterback. But if we look at what they're doing to the running backs, the Vikings are allowing the 8th most points at 28.8, and the Texans are allowing the 4th most at 31.4. So these running backs really are going to have a good day. So I see Dalvin Cook as a top 3 or 4 option this weekend. And then I really like David Johnson this weekend. I could almost see him being a running back 1. As you see here, the Vikings are allowing almost 30 points, 30 PPR points to the running back position. And then if we continue to look here, the Vikings, everyone knows how banged up that secondary is. They're really young and inexperienced. So they are allowing the 4th most points in PPR at 46.9 points per game. The Texans are a little bit stronger, but then the Texans are a little bit more susceptible against the tight ends. They're allowing 15.2 to the Vikings 11. So that kind of sets up the stage here. You're starting Adam Thielen as your wide receiver 2. And I mean, if you were fortunate enough to snag Justin Jefferson this weekend, I think we're starting him as a wide receiver 3 flex. You just paid good money for the rookie receiver. I think you should throw him out in a really good matchup against Houston. And then besides that, we still can't trust Madison, Kyle Rudolph, Herb Smith, Olabisi Johnson. It was nice to see Rudolph catch the touchdown, but he's not getting enough targets and usage for us to trust. On the Houston side of things, Deshaun Watson, you got to keep riding him out as your quarterback 1. If you have a better option, like a guy like maybe you have Matt Stafford or Tom Brady or something like that, I could see you pivoting to there. But for now, leave him in as your quarterback 1 or 2. David Johnson, I said he's probably going to have the best day of the group in the Texans lineup. Will Fuller, let's take a look at that practice report real quick for Houston. So Will Fuller logged a limited practice today with a hamstring. We really gotta monitor this one. It looks like Duke Johnson's actually fully practicing, so he's going to be back in the lineup too. So I'm kind of excited about that. That might take a little bit of the ceiling out of David Johnson, but for now, monitor Will Fuller's status leading up into the game. If Will Fuller plays, you still have to. You pretty much have to start him. You almost wish he just would be listed out, ahead of time. That way, you don't have to play the what if game with Will Fuller this weekend. But if you drafted Will Fuller and you know what you signed up for, so if he plays, you got to play him. But if he does not play, I really like Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. And in fact, because we noticed that the Vikings are allowing the fourth most fantasy points to the receiver position, even if Fuller plays, I think I'd like Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb as low-end wide receiver 3 flex plays. And then because the Vikings are a little bit better against the tight end, but I'm keeping an eye on Jordan Akins. I think he could be a low-end tight end 1 this weekend. He's easily the number 1 target leader in the tight end room for the Texans. So there's something to keep an eye on. The Texans are going to have to keep throwing the ball if they want to win. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop Dalvin Cook in the passing game here. So I'm really interested in this game. Again, this is a battle of 0-3 teams. Basically the loser's season is done. I think only one team in NFL history has made the playoffs at 0-4. So there's a lot on the line here. I think I like the Texans at home, but we'll see. It really depends on the health of Will Fuller. I'm interested to see what this offense looks like with Duke Johnson back in the mix. And then, just continue to monitor Kenny Stills, Darren Fells. We'll see what happens with some of these secondary guys. But that's pretty much it for the week 4 noon game. So I'm going to be doing the rest of the schedule tomorrow, maybe around like 5:30 or 6 o'clock, probably the same time when I get in from work. But we got a few games here. The Sunday afternoon games, we got a Sunday night football game, and then a Monday night game. So I think that's a total of 4 or 5 games. So we'll finish up with that tomorrow. If you're new to the Fantasy Fellow Show, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can like the video, leave us a comment. That's how we grow this thing. I appreciate all the new subscribers that I've gotten the past few weeks. You can follow me on Twitter if you have questions. Check out our Facebook page if you want to contact me there. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for your time. And I'm here to help you win your league. I'll see you in another video. Have a good night and enjoy the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets tonight. Peace.